Hey, Jonathan here. In this video, we got another great tutorial for you. We're going to show you how to build into the elbow lever and then progress into the one-arm elbow lever. So this is an impressive move, and the great thing about this move is once you learn this, you can build into other cool moves like a lot of different breakdancing movements. You can also start working on building into the heavier strength moves like the planche and stuff like this. So this is a good prerequisite move to have before going into other things where you're using the same type of shape. So for the elbow lever, this is what the double arm elbow lever will look like. So it looks a lot like a planche, except for we're tucking our elbows into our stomach and holding ourselves out for balance, like so. And then by the end, we're going to learn how to go into the one arm, where we're just going one arm and holding. So let's break down how to go into this movement. So first, let's talk about the technique for this move, and then we're going to go over progression steps over how to build into it. So with this move, like I talked about before, the goal is to rest our stomach or abs on top of our elbows to hold us up. So we're not going to be using as much strength. We're going to be relying more on our form and technique. So we want to stack our joints together. So as we prep for this move, we're going to have our hands fairly close together so that way our elbows can tuck into our stomach. So we're going to be right on the outsides. So where our abs kind of start right here, we're going to be right in that position here. That's where we're going to be planting our elbows. And to do that, we're going to start with our hands. Place our hands close together and turned out slightly. So instead of being straight, we're going to turn them out slightly. So that way when we bend our elbow, it can go into our stomach to hold us for balance. So I'm going to start with our hands out, fairly close together, just about a hand's length apart, and with the fingers pointing out. And from here, we're going to get into a push-up position and then slowly drop down. And as we drop down, with our hands turned out, our elbows should naturally go into the correct position. And then rest right here in that position I'm talking about. So right about the belly button is where we want our elbows to be. And so from here, it's basically a balancing act. So we want to straighten our legs, straighten our back as much as we can, lean forward. We're going to be leaning forward to counterbalance our weight, and then we play with it from here. And so we're going to be using the exact same technique for that one as we do with the one arm. So it's the same thing, except for now we're going to be pulling our elbow just slightly more inside, so closer to our center, so that way we can balance a little bit easier. And then we're going to lean slightly over. So with the two arms, we were here. With the one arm, we're going to be leaning slightly over to one side so that we can center our weight over that one arm. And that's where we can go into this one. And it helps a little bit to start off having the legs slightly spread out, or even spread out further, so that way it's easier to hold the balance. So again, with this move, it's going to rely mainly on technique. So we're going to rely on our structure instead of our weight. So that way we can maintain good balance, and it makes it a lot easier. So really, just think about keeping your body straight and then balancing on that one arm. And so it's going to take time, and it takes time to, one, build that balance and coordination with the muscles, also to build up the strength with the core, because when we're first doing this, it's going to be really uncomfortable poking our elbows there. So it takes a little bit of time for that to build up. So now we're going to go into some progression steps, so that way you can build the balance and also build up the muscles, so it makes it a lot easier and it's not as painful when we start getting into it. Alright, so one of the first things that we're going to do is just work on building that basic balance. So what we're going to do is start by just doing, we're going to have our hands in the same position like we would for the elbow lever with two arms, except instead of going down to our stomach, we're going to stay up straight and go into a frog pose, having the knees go to the outside of the elbow. So we're going to put our knees on the top outside here. So we're going to go like this and just kind of hold that balance. If this is a little too hard at first, we can bend the arms so we can be here to make it easier. What this is going to do is going to help build the balance and coordination with our wrists and the hands right here. Okay, after that, that's when we're gonna start messing around with going down to the stomach. So from here, we're gonna drop down. We're gonna start off with our legs straddle. So we're gonna spread them out as far as we can and then perform the move like this. So that way, it's a little bit easier to balance. We're not having to lean as much forward. So we can start here and work on lifting one leg at a time. And then we can bend them if we need to make it a lot easier. If that's still hard doing a straddle, we can tuck the legs again and hold here. And so that way we can play around with this balance here by straightening out the legs, coming back in, and keeping the head close to the ground. So that way if we fall forward, we can easily use our head just to kind of balance ourselves out. And that's really what we're gonna do, is we're gonna play with that balance with our legs spread out and staying pretty low until we get comfortable. Once we get comfortable, that's when we start straightening out the legs and working on really correcting that form so that we can then go into the straight leg. So we'll use that to build into the two-arm technique, which will take time. It's just gonna take time and practice to get that down. Then we're gonna go into, once we have that down, then it's going to the harder version, which is the one-arm version of the elbow lever. So what we're gonna do is, to make it a lot easier, we're gonna start in that two-arm lever position. And then from here, we're gonna shift our weight over a little bit so we can balance on that one arm. So get used to this balance at first, keeping our legs on the ground in a straddle position, nice comfortable straddle. And we're just gonna work on building this position here first. Keeping our legs on the ground and just getting comfortable with this position, because it's gonna be uncomfortable at first just having one arm into the stomach like this. So it'll take some time to build this up. Once we get that comfortable and we feel good with that, that's when we're gonna start raising up the legs. So we're gonna keep this arm planted. We're gonna plant our hand down in front, and we're gonna lift up the legs. So we can get a really good feel for the balance. And if you want, you can start to use your legs a little bit at the beginning. And then what we want to do from there, once we have this down, where we can lift up the legs and balance, then we're gonna lift up on the fingertips of this hand and start releasing this hand until we can get the full position. So really, for this move, it's all about being patient and taking a gradual approach. We're gonna start off by just getting the balance with our hands and wrists. Then we're gonna work on building the strength to support our arms. And then we're gonna start working on combining those together so that we can have good balance and have good core strength to hold ourselves up. Once we have that down, then we start progressing to the one arm. So this move is relatively easy to get down, but it's gonna take time and practice to get it down really well. So the important thing is that you start off with those gradual progressions, you build into each move slowly and steadily, because there's gonna be a lot of pressure on your wrists and things, so it's gonna take time for that to build up. So I recommend, trying some of these drills out like 3 times a week, just so you stay consistent with it. And to help build the strength, some good things to do are things like planks, so you build up the core strength. Just doing simple planks like so, working on balancing, leaning forward in this position so that you get your strength down, and doing push-ups, things like that. These are all great things to help build strength for that move. But again, this one's gonna be more about technique. So make sure to really train that technique, and you'll be able to get this move down fairly quickly if you do that. One thing to be aware of is that, again, you're gonna be using a lot of wrists. So if you start doing these things and you start to feel a little bit of wrist pain, that's normal if you're not used to using your wrists. So what I want you to do is check out the video we have down below, because that's gonna go over how to avoid wrist pain, how to build up the wrists so that you avoid certain injuries like that, and it makes them a lot stronger. Thanks for checking out the video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Train safe, and I'll see you in the next video.